Hey guys, this is Samir for ThinkDigit, and today we're going to be talking about the overall performance of the Nexus 5. So starting with the benchmark scores, the smartphone doesn't score as highly as other flagship devices. Now the internals of the Nexus 5 are the same as the LG G2. It however still scores less in the benchmark scores. This is probably because Google doesn't really care about customizing its phones to get you the best out of benchmark scores, or probably the benchmarks aren't updated to run to their fullest speed on KitKat. However, in its real world performance, the smartphone is really smooth, it's really fluid. So let's just walk you through some of its performance features. Browsing on the internet is of course a treat. The keyboard is stock Android. They have replaced the position of the exclamation mark and comma, which was originally on the left side of the keyboard. For me, this is personally a little frustrating because I'm so used to muscle memory on the Android keyboard, being very used to 4.3, that it took me a little time to get used to this. Nonetheless, typing on the keyboard, browsing the internet, doing virtually anything on the smartphone in its performance is absolutely great. Even if you can notice, there used to be a certain amount of lag while scrolling. It's still there, it's very slight, but it's such a great improvement overall in the performance. Even while multitasking, you can see we have quite a few number of apps open. The phone runs very smoothly. The 1080p display is also great. Now on paper, the IPS plus HD display is the same that we've seen on the LG G2. In real world performance, however, the display is slightly dimmer than what we've seen on the G2. It's not bad by any means. Its pixel density is higher than the G2 because of its size. But when it comes to absolutely reading text, the phone is just great. You could zoom in completely. There you don't see any grains, there's no pixelation. It's just great. Even if you're reading any books on Google Books, it's just a treat to consume content on the phone. So as you can see, there are a few visual changes to the dialer, to the contacts list. You could just search for them and they pop up. It's really good and very comfortable to use in its performance. Another enhancement to the performance is you can now type the name of an app, and if it's there on your phone, it'll just pop up. So you could just search for the app directly rather than going into your apps lister. Coming to its gaming performance, we're just going to show you a bit of Real Racing 3 and Dead Trigger 2, which are some of the games we really love playing here. The phone's performance is really great. Now the only drawback to the smartphone, of course, is the fact that its speakers are slightly softer than we'd like. We've seen a lot of other smartphones available in the market that have better audio coming out of the stereo speakers available. But overall, as you can see, the performance of the game is really good. The display is vibrant enough for great viewing angles. The game runs smoothly. The hardware is great. One thing that we did notice is that there are some heating issues with the phone. We've been playing games, running some benchmarks and using it, and in about half an hour of really power hungry use, the phone became quite hot. Now some running and gunning action with Dead Trigger. Since the device has a 5-inch display, there is more real estate for you to put your thumbs on and play a game when compared to the slightly smaller phones. Of course, considering the previous Nexus was 4.7 inches, the real estate isn't really that great, but its presence is appreciated nonetheless. Take a look at how really crisp the display is. Like we've said before, it isn't the best display in its class. We have the LG G2, which has a mind-blowing display, but this display is great nonetheless.
Talk about a problem? I sell ice for a living.
Ooh, that's a rough business to be in right now. I mean, that is really... that's unfortunate.
My lady.
This is awkward. Not you're awkward, but just because I'm awkward. You're gorgeous. Wait, what?
Coming to the battery life of the smartphone, it has a 2300 mAh battery, which is a really small capacity when compared to what the competition has to offer. But in terms of its life, in our continuous video playback test, it lasted for about 5 hours, which is almost at par at what the competition does. We've seen devices from LG and Samsung bringing higher capacity batteries, which do last a little bit longer. But then again, the battery life of a smartphone is subjective to the brightness levels, which features you keep on and off, such as background sync and all. Coming to the camera of the smartphone, this is the only place where we think the Nexus 5 is really disappointing. The interface is the same as it was on the last generation. So if you're someone who likes a very clean interface, and if you're someone who doesn't like to tinker too much with what the smartphone has to offer, well, then this is a great interface for you. If you are someone who likes a lot more control with what you are doing, then you would prefer the interface of other smartphones. Coming to the performance of the camera, it is probably the weakest point. The camera does do a good job, especially when the environment is controlled and you do have access to the lighting and the shot is steady. In low lit conditions, it still, however, is a bit of a trouble to use. It isn't the best out there. The Xperia Z1, in our opinion, has the best camera on the high-end smartphone today. We do wish LG and Google do remove an algorithm that helps improve the quality of the camera on the smartphone. Overall, we'd like to say that the Nexus 5 is a great vanilla Android experience. The biggest advantage of the Nexus 5 is that it is the least expensive flagship smartphone available in the market where the competition is concerned. It's a real bang for your buck device, and Google will support the Nexus 5 for the next 18 months at least, with all major operating system updates. Having said that, if you are someone who wants a great display, you'd probably consider the LG G2. If you want a great camera, you'd probably consider the Sony Xperia Z1. If the interface and multitasking and doing more with your phone is something you like, you'd probably go for the Samsung Galaxy S4. So what we're trying to tell you is, if a vanilla Android experience, the least expensive, great hardware experience is what you're looking for, then the Nexus 5 is a smartphone for you. If you like the other bangs and whistles that come with high-end devices, then you can look at the competition.